So she's
I mean,
a
they
serial
sound reasonable.
fraudster. That's called fraud. When you pretend you want to do the one thing and you'll do the thing they're hiring you for, but all along you have secret plans to do something very, very different that's above your pay grade. And she finally bumped into...
Blake Lively is losing it after Megyn Kelly went all out, revealing her messy past in the harshest way imaginable.
And that she and her husband are bullies, and now it's resulted in vicious cross litigations against both of them.
Turns out Blake has spent years tearing people down, humiliating them on live TV, and acting like Hollywood's untouchable queen. But now that Megyn Kelly has stepped up and exposed all her dirty secrets, Blake's empire of manipulation is finally crumbling.
And that she and her husband are bullies, and now it's resulted in vicious cross litigations against both of them. The New York Times is being sued for defamation by Baldoni.
She comes off as kind of a jerk. For years, Blake Lively has convinced everyone she's Hollywood's perfect golden girl, flawless, graceful, effortlessly likable. But behind that polished PR image lies a well-rehearsed act, and Megyn Kelly just hit the reset button on it.
She claims he sexual harassed her, and then by the time they premiered the movie, they weren't even speaking to each other. She made him stay in the basement, and Ryan Reynolds turned on him too. And then she claimed that he unleashed a bad PR campaign.
Before Blake was making headlines with her drama and going full dictator on Justin Baldoni, she was already playing the game during her Gossip Girl days. Blake wasn't just acting, she was carefully positioning herself in the right circles, like a chess master. In a 2009 interview with Glamour UK, she was on the cover.
A 2009 Glamour UK interview by Blake Lively. She was on the cover at the time. And in her interview, she admitted to trying to poison the cast of Gossip Girl, which is where she made her name, against her co-star, Penn Badgley, who played her love interest.
Blake casually admitted to poisoning the Gossip Girl cast against Penn Badgley just because she didn't like him at first. Not ignoring him, not keeping it professional, but actively turning the cast against him like a high school mean girl with a Hollywood budget.
Where she made her name against her co-star, Penn Badgley, who played her love interest, Dan Humphrey, on the show. She said, at first I was so upset that they had hired him, I actually poisoned the whole cast against him. And she goes,
the kicker? She later admitted he was actually a nice guy, making her whole smear campaign a move to make herself the center of attention. And this wasn't a one-time see.
He goes on to say, but then they noticed that he wasn't a jerk and was actually a nice, charming person. And almost immediately I realized it too. But it took me about a week to admit it. And here's the thing.
Blake became an expert at keeping her hands clean while pushing others out of the way. She knew how to charm the media, maintain that squeaky clean image, and make sure no one saw the strings she was pulling behind the scenes. But now, stuck. In the middle of a Hollywood courtroom circus, there's one thing she didn't count on. No one's coming to her rescue.
Reports were that Blake Lively and Leighton Meester, who played best friends on that show, were not friends during the 6-season run of the show. Leighton Meester and Penn Badgley and other Gossip Girl co-stars have remained silent in the wake of the Baldoni legal drama.
Not a single Gossip Girl co-star has stepped up to defend her. Leighton Meester, silent. Penn Badgley, radio silence. The rest of the cast, acting like she doesn't even exist. These were people she worked with for 6 years, and if anyone wanted to defend her character, now would be the time. But the silence? It speaks louder than words ever could.
Neither Meester nor Badgley follow Lively on Instagram. Members of the jury, what does...
Blake's falling out with Leighton Meester is another piece of the puzzle. On screen, Serena and Blair were the ultimate best friend duo. But behind the scenes, it was a disaster. Blake, obsessed with staying in the spotlight, reportedly got frustrated when Leighton was more focused on her craft than chasing fame. By the time the show ended, they weren't even speaking. And now, with Blake's legal drama making front page news, Leighton isn't lifting a finger to defend her. It's almost like karma is finally catching up. This is exactly what Megyn Kelly exposed. Blake's entire career has been a cycle of manipulation.
Blake Lively is caught in old footage, revealing that, yes, her secret plan is to always take control of the movies and lie to the director.
Alliances and playing the victim whenever things didn't go her way. Whether it was Penn Badgley, Leighton Meester, or now Justin Baldoni, the pattern is always the same. Blake takes control, rewrites the narrative in her favor, and when she loses grip, she suddenly plays the misunderstood victim. In 2022, Blake stood on stage at the Forbes Power Women's Summit.
Like unreal. Here we go. Let's not bury the lead. Here's the clip.
It's just as important to say, okay, I believe in this, and that's why I'm standing up for it, and that's why I'm not being difficult. And then there are other moments to go like, am I the asshole in the room? Like, what is happening here? I would show up on a set. I knew that they just wanted me to show up and look cute and stand on a little pink sticker where I'm supposed to go and say what I'm supposed to say. But I also knew that like that wasn't fulfilling for me, that I wanted to be a part of the storytelling, that I wanted to be a part of the narrative, whether that be in the writing, in the costume design, in creating the character. And
Flashing her effortless charm and delivering what was supposed to be an empowering speech. But instead, she accidentally exposed her own playbook for industry manipulation. It wasn't just an inspiring talk about ambition and success. It was a full-on confession of exactly what Justin Baldoni is dragging her to court over. As the crowd hung on to her every word, Blake casually admitted that she faked her way into roles, pretending to be exactly what directors wanted, just another.
Blake Lively is caught in old footage revealing that, yes, her secret plan is to always take control of the movies.
Eager actress thrilled to be part of the project. But once she secured the role, that's when the real takeover began. She started injecting her own creative input, rewriting scripts, making decisions that weren't hers to make, and slowly pushing out the actual decision makers.
So she's a serial fraudster. That's called fraud. When you pretend you want to do the one thing and you'll do the thing they're hiring you for, but all along you have secret plans to do something very, very different that's above your pay grade. And she finally bumped into someone who was weak enough.
Blake even laughed about how some directors felt betrayed when they realized what she was doing, as if hijacking projects was some kind of genius power move instead of outright deception. This wasn't a slip of the tongue. It wasn't an exaggeration. It was Blake Lively on record, laying out her entire strategy for career domination. And now, just 2 years later, Justin Baldoni is taking her to court for doing exactly what she bragged about on stage. She once said, "I don't want to just be an actress. I want to have more authorship." Baldoni's lawsuit accuses Blake of pretending to be just an actress, only to push him out of his own movie, override his creative vision, and take control. Here's the kicker. Baldoni's production company financed the film, secured the rights from Colleen Hoover, and spent years developing it. But the second Blake got involved, she did exactly what she admitted to doing in 2022. She hijacked the whole project.
You knowingly admitted that's what you do. They want an actress, they hire an actress, they pay you to be an actress, that's your job. But then you do exactly what Justin's accusing you of.
This isn't an isolated incident. It's a pattern Blake has been perfecting, a slow burn takeover strategy for years. It starts with small creative suggestions, before gradually steamrolling the entire production. For the most part, it worked. Directors who resisted were either ignored, outmaneuvered, or quietly pushed aside.
And imagine if Justin had just known this, if this clip had gone viral before to avoid this whole mess. I'm just the entitlement of her that she thinks this is okay.
Blake knew exactly how to work the system, gain trust, get cast, make herself indispensable, and then take control. It was a step-by-step formula that had never failed her, until Justin Baldoni. Unlike the big-name directors Blake had manipulated, in the past, directors like Christopher Nolan or Denis Villeneuve, Justin was a rising director still proving himself. He didn't have the studio backing or industry clout to fight back, and Blake saw an opportunity. At first, she played nice, acting like just another team player, but before long, she was rewriting scripts, making executive decisions, and treating the film as if it were hers. Slowly but surely, Baldoni was pushed to the sidelines until he was no longer just the director. He was an afterthought.
Sounds like is that she's not interested in being a part of a team. She just wants to own it all. And that's fine. If that is your method of working, then do that. But you have to create your own projects. You have to put yourself in that position that you are in charge, not take it from somebody else. Right?
By the time It Ends With Us premiered, Blake had completely erased Baldoni from the picture. The man who fought to bring the film to life wasn't even allowed to attend his own premiere while Blake soaked up the spotlight. Baldoni was literally forced to stay in the basement, the ultimate power move to show the world who was really running the show. But here's where Blake went wrong. She got cocky.
You don't even get to come to the premiere. You're not allowed in the premiere. Fine, but he goes in the basement when I show up. I mean, that's not authorship. That's not autonomy. That's control. That's selfishness. That's entitlement. This woman is a monster.
The exact words she smugly spoke in 2022 are now evidence against her. What she once flaunted as an example of her influence is now proof of her manipulation in the industry. And as more people connect the dots, it's becoming painfully clear. Blake didn't just take over It Ends With Us. She's been running this con for years. In 2019, Justin Baldoni secured the film rights to Colleen Hoover's best-selling novel, It Ends With Us, a project he had been deeply passionate about for years. His production company, Wayfarer Studios, optioned the rights, and by early 2022, development was in full swing. As both producer and director, Baldoni had a clear vision, a film that would capture the novel's raw emotional depth and bring important conversations about domestic violence to the screen. But what started as his passion project quickly spiraled into something unrecognizable. In April 2023, Blake Lively was announced as the lead, set to play Lily Bloom. On paper, it looked like a win, an A-list actress attached to a beloved book with a dedicated fan base. But behind the scenes, Blake wasn't just signing on as an actress. She was making her move to seize control.
Blake Lively is caught in old footage revealing that, yes, her secret plan is to always take control of the movies.
Production sources claim that almost immediately after being cast, Blake began demanding changes to the script. No small tweaks or minor adjustments, but full-scale rewrites that were neither approved by Baldoni nor the original creative team.
That's why A-list producers brought in. That's when suddenly, oh crap, this movie's not just we need more time. This movie could actually be something. All because of Justin.
She allegedly argued that certain scenes needed to be altered to fit her vision of Lily, but over time it became clear this wasn't about collaboration. It was about control. By mid-2023, Blake's influence had expanded beyond just the script. Insiders reported that she began overriding Baldoni's directorial decisions, leaving him blindsided. He had signed on to work with her as an actor, but instead, he found himself being pushed out of key creative discussions. Her power move didn't stop there. Blake allegedly leveraged her industry connections to bring in a new team of editors and producers who would align with her version of the film, leaving Baldoni further sidelined in his own project.
Stuff that happened, she realized they had a hit on their hands. That's why she took control. That's why A-list producers brought in. That's when suddenly, oh crap, this movie's not just we need more time. This movie could actually be something. All because of Justin.
By late 2023, Blake was demanding final cut approval, a privilege traditionally reserved for the director or the studio. Baldoni, despite being the one who optioned the rights, financed the project, and built the film from the ground up, was rapidly losing his grip. Even studio executives were reportedly caught off guard by just how much influence Blake had managed to secure behind the scenes. By the time filming wrapped in early 2024, it was no longer Justin Baldoni's film. Blake Lively had completely taken over It Ends With Us. Hollywood insiders knew this was the moment Blake Lively's carefully crafted image began to unravel. What happened to Justin Baldoni wasn't some harmless mistake. It was a calculated power move. As more details surfaced, it became clear just how far Blake was willing to go to ensure this film was hers, no matter who got steamrolled in the process. Megyn Kelly has always been unapologetically blunt, and when she demolished Blake Lively's image...
So she's a serial fraudster. That's called fraud. When you pretend you want to do the one thing and you'll do the thing they're hiring you for, but all along you have secret plans to do something very, very different that's above your pay grade. And she finally bumped into someone who was weak enough and not famous enough to stop her, right?
It shook Hollywood to its core. In February 2025, during a fiery segment on The Megyn Kelly Show, she didn't just criticize Blake's fall from grace, she made it clear that this wasn't a witch hunt, but rather karma finally coming due. The 2016 press junket for Cafe Society had been buried. No one talked about it. No one brought it up. But in February 2025, footage from that interview resurfaced online, and it spread like wildfire. It began like any other press event. Kirsty, a Swedish journalist, asked the usual questions, even congratulating Blake on her pregnancy.
First of all, congrats on your little bump.
Congrats on your little bump.
What about my bump?
You've got two nice ones.
But Blake's response, it was downright nasty. Instead of simply smiling and moving on, Blake looked Kirsty up and down and coldly remarked that she had a baby bump too. The only problem? Kirsty wasn't pregnant. She could never be. Later, Kirsty revealed that Blake's words weren't a careless slip-up. They were a calculated insult designed to humiliate her. The footage made it clear. Blake wasn't joking. She wasn't being playful. She was mean. Her dismissive tone, smug expression, and refusal to make eye contact, all captured on camera. Blake wasn't alone. Co-star Parker Posey sat beside her, laughing along, feeding into the toxic high school bully vibe. What should have been a standard professional interview quickly turned into a public takedown, with Kirsty at the receiving end of Blake's cruel remarks. For years, Kirsty kept the footage to herself, admitting that she didn't speak out sooner due to fear of retaliation. Blake Lively wasn't just a star. She was powerful, well-connected, and protected by Hollywood's elite. Speaking out could have easily blacklisted Kirsty from the industry. But now, with Blake's career under a magnifying glass, her manipulative past exposed, and her long history of mistreating people laid bare, Kirsty finally felt safe enough to tell the truth. And when the footage hit the internet, it obliterated whatever was left of Blake Lively's America's sweetheart persona. The second Blake's mean girl moment went viral, her PR team went into full damage control mode. Hollywood. Damage Control 101. When bad press starts spreading, shift the narrative fast. And within 48 hours, that's exactly what happened. Suddenly, TMZ and People magazine were running stories about how Blake felt uncomfortable filming with Justin Baldoni. The headlines were carefully crafted. Baldoni had fat-shamed Blake during a critical on-set moment. The fat-shaming accusations seemed to come out of nowhere. Industry insiders quickly pointed out that Baldoni had a documented back injury during filming and had only asked about Blake's weight before a physically demanding scene, a standard practice in stunt coordination to ensure safety. But now, this routine conversation was being repackaged as an insult, a controversy, a scandal, and that's where it all fell apart. Because Blake Lively was the last person who could pull the body-shaming victim card. The Kirsty interview scandal was still fresh in the public's mind. This was the same woman who, on camera, mocked a journalist's body in front of a full press room. If Blake was so deeply offended by the idea of weight comments, why had she been so comfortable publicly humiliating someone else over theirs? Hypocrisy wasn't just obvious. It was impossible to ignore. Suddenly, people weren't just questioning Blake's accusations against Baldoni. They were questioning whether the entire scandal was a smokescreen to distract from her own nasty behavior. Just when things couldn't get messier, the leaked messages surfaced. The ones that dragged Ryan Reynolds and Taylor Swift straight into the chaos. "I need you to get on a Zoom with Taylor Swift," Blake had said, "and we're ruining lives tonight. Be very careful with your marriages, folks." Private messages from Blake's inner circle revealed she referred to Ryan and Taylor as her dragons, her personal enforcers, the ones she could count on to publicly back her up whenever she needed damage control.
It's very different. She called herself Khaleesi and said Ryan Reynolds and we believe Taylor Swift were her dragons. And she's got the best dragons because they'll fight on behalf of her friends too. Now she
And Ryan? He played his part flawlessly. Within days of the controversy exploding, Ryan Reynolds unfollowed Justin Baldoni on Instagram. No public statements, no official stance, just a swift, strategic unfollow. That made one thing clear. Blake had officially cut ties with Baldoni, and Ryan was falling in line. In an industry where optics are everything, Ryan's silent allegiance spoke volumes. But Taylor Swift? That was a different story. Blake had paraded her friendship with Taylor as a VIP pass, attending private events, posting carefully curated photos, leveraging their connection to maintain her cool girl image. But now, with not only Baldoni but several reports surfacing that Taylor felt used in the feud, Blake had dragged her into a personal war she had nothing to do with. For Taylor, already navigating a year of intense scrutiny over her own public image, aligning herself with Blake was now a PR risk she wasn't willing to take. Here we go. Blake Lively, facing another lawsuit in her ongoing It Ends With Us legal battle with co-star Justin Baldoni. She didn't make a public statement. She didn't call out Blake. She didn't defend Justin. She simply stayed quiet. And in Hollywood, silence can be louder than words. While Blake scrambled to rewrite the media narrative, Justin Baldoni was preparing for the real fight in court. In early 2025, Baldoni's legal team, led by powerhouse defamation attorney Brian Fredman, filed a lawsuit against the New York Times for defamation. Baldoni's team alleged that the newspaper had published one-sided, unverified claims supporting Blake, printing false accusations without evidence. But the real bombshell came when Baldoni's team presented actual text messages proving Blake's allegations were exaggerated or outright fabricated. These weren't vague accusations. They were hard receipts. The lawsuit threw Hollywood into chaos, forcing the industry to finally ask the question, had Blake weaponized the media to destroy Baldoni's career? Had she used her deep industry connections to control the narrative, knowing she could rewrite history in her favor? Or was this all just an elaborate scheme to protect her takeover of It Ends With Us at any cost? But the real nail in the coffin wasn't the lawsuit. It wasn't the leaked texts. It was the quiet rebellion happening right under Blake's nose. At first, Colleen Hoover had publicly supported Blake, standing by her when the drama first erupted. But then, in February 2025, something shifted. People noticed that Hoover had erased every mention of Blake from her social media. No posts, no tweets, no interviews. It was like she had never even been associated with her. The woman whose book Blake fought so hard to control had quietly scrubbed her from existence. And after this avalanche of evidence, nobody knows how Blake Lively is going to spin her way out of this one. But if you don't want to miss what happens next, hit that subscribe button and stay tuned.